Matthew's a harsh gospel. It's got the most violence in it of any gospel as I read it. Matthew is very filled with things like weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth and you're going to get yours and things like that. I did a study on this story and how it compares to Luke and how it compares to all kinds of things, and it was hard to decide to actually preach on this because you know how much I dislike violence. And I don't believe that our merciful God is has some kind of an evil temperament that eventually is going to cause you to be tortured forever and ever and ever. But when we look at this writing and the writings of all the Gospels, we see that they were written much after Jesus' death. This one, about 50 years after Jesus' death, maybe 75. And it was written by someone or by a group of people in a community who followed the oral tradition of the disciple Matthew. This Gospel never says it was written by anyone named Matthew. It's anonymous. But it was likely given the name Matthew because that's the community from which they came. And that was a common thing to do. To say, I am writing in the style of. It wasn't plagiarism. It was actually attributing your work to another name because you honored your teacher. And so here we are, at least 50 years after Jesus' death. And this group of people says, we want to write down now this oral tradition that we have been learning. So they are very concerned with things like how the Jewish people are accepting or not accepting Christ. They are a Jewish people. We can tell that from the way they look up where these things come from and the language and the phrases that they use. So scholars tell us that this was a Jewish community who was a follower of Christ. And with any kind of parable, it has great exaggerations and is filled with lots of visions to help you put yourself inside of it and to imagine life in a way, kind of like a child's book, right? Where you've got all these grand themes and then you want the kid to get the concept of it. It's not that Little Red Riding Hood actually existed or that a big bad wolf could talk. So here we are with this parable that Jesus is giving us. And we read it and we see that God is the King. Inviting those with whom God has a relationship to a banquet. And that banquet is salvation. The people refuse the invitation to the feast. But they don't just refuse, they're violent against the messengers. And so the king then invites those with whom he does not have a relationship to attend this banquet. In Luke, what's interesting is that there is no violence. The version here in Luke is concerned with the lame and the blind and all those who are marginalized being invited into the feast, this feast of salvation. So the basic theme is the same. Here's an invitation, here's a rejection, and here's another invitation to a group of people that the king does not know. But in Luke, it's a bunch of people that are from the byways who would be marginalized and outcasts. In Matthew, though, in traditional Matthean language, it says there were both the good and the bad came from the main street. Matthew also has the parable of the tares. You know, the wheat and the tares growing up side by side. Oh, let's weed the garden. And the gardener goes, no. If you do that at this point, the good plants are going to come up as well as the bad ones. So leave them all and let's just see how it plays out. I like that about God. Let's see how this plays out. We'll let everything just grow together. Frustrating for those of us who really would like some of those weeds. You know, we want some room. But no, I'm going to let it play out. Matthew doesn't designate who is invited. Just go to the main street. Bring in the good and bring in the bad. I don't know how this speaks to you. I don't know what this means as you think about cracking open your faith and deciding which kind of flower you're going to be. That tall, lanky one. I know, I just walked out of the frame. Sorry. The tall, lanky one, or the grass that kind of has little tufts, or doesn't matter. You're in a relationship with God and you are invited to something lavish, to something beautiful, to something wonderful, and to something prepared. I think that's the key here. The king says, I've prepared everything. Won't you come? You don't want to come? How many times have we prepared things? And God, oh gosh, I hope people make it. I really want people to come to this. And then you've got everything all set up. Well, doggone it, no one came. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. It actually has happened to me once or twice. Because I'm not a very good marketer, I guess. I don't know. And so you just sit there and you go, it never occurred to me to go out and invite other people. People I didn't know. People I didn't have a relationship with. But God does. Who are we in this story? Are you an invited guest with whom the king has a relationship? Are you one of the unexpected guests that the king calls later? Do we show up? Or do we disregard the invitation? At any point in time, we could be any one of those. We could be an invited guest originally, and we actually show up. That person's not in the story, but it happens all the time. We think that's the best way to be, don't we? Isn't that great? I was invited, and I showed up. I'm a good person. But maybe sometimes we're the other person. I was invited. You know, I'm just a little too busy, and quite frankly, I'm bored with you. I don't want to be a part of your stuff anymore. It's the same old, okay. Yeah, you're nice. Get so bored of your kindness. I'm not going to go. Sometimes we're that. Sometimes, though, we're the unexpected guest. That someone says, you know, why don't you come? And then we have a choice. Do we say yes? Even though we don't know what this is going to be like, we don't know who this person really is. And in this case, they're the king. I remember the first time being invited to a swanky dinner. And my grandmother and my mother sitting me down and saying, this is a little bit how the forks and the spoons and the knives go. And make sure you don't put your elbows on the table. And, you know, all these things that I wasn't accustomed to. My mom never liked me to put my elbows on the table, but I did anyway, and she let me eat. But she was my mom. But here I was, you know, going to this thing. Was it going to be all right? It turned out that those were people too, that I was eating with. And sometimes they were just as messy as I was. Yeah, it profoundly surprised me. I expected everything to be very pristine. I don't know, like some movie where there were no crumbs and, you know, or anything. What a surprise I got. But still, it's nervous-making to be one of the unexpected guests. So do you show up or do you not? How does this crack open the seed of our faith so that we can grow? For me, it reminds me to never take for granted my relationship with God, because I don't want to be an invited guest and be like, you again? Okay, Holy Spirit, you know, can I catch up with you later? I'm in the middle of a Scrabble game. This is really important to me. It also reminds me that I want us to have unexpected guests. And we're pretty good at that here. Mid-month meal, we want the unexpected guests. Church service, unexpected guests. Anytime we have anything. But more, I say. Let's invite more. And how do we invite? I hate using the phrase in this day and age. But what vehicles can we use to let other people know that they are welcome? Welcome to everything. It's not that we think they should come because we're afraid of some kind of eternal punishment for them. It's because we just want them here. Because we've got joy, and we've got life, and we've got love, and gosh, no one should be isolated and alone. I hope and pray for people who we have never met, or maybe we've just passed on the street or in the store to come to our banquet. But even more, I hope and pray that we offer banquets. Not just banquets that rely on high-priced foods or fancy decorations, although this is fun, right? We like this. This is great. This didn't actually cost a lot of money. It cost a little bit of creativity. Our banquets are to be inviting and lavish in kindness, inclusion, and love. So let's see what happens with our seed. As we meditate on providing amazing, beautiful, nourishing banquets. Again, I can't walk over there. Filled with this dirt of God. And the lights that we put on top of it when you're not here. And the watering that we give it. So that we can grow this beloved community. And that all who come to this place will feel like they were expected guests, not unexpected.